this is Christina Barr, and you guys are watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be, of course, I think it's a little obvious that we're going to be talking a bit about Kanye and the interview that he had with Alex Jones. And I think it's pretty evident that there's that he's not well, and there's a lot of people taking advantage of the fact that he's not well, and he's still a grown man. He's responsible for the things that he says, but what I watched the entire thing. I don't know how many people watched a lot of people watched it. I don't know how many people watched the entire thing, but I wanted to make sure that I understood the context and everything that he was saying. And not only was I obviously not okay with stuff that he said, but also how people acted at the end of on InfoWars. They're like, well, he has a right to say it, and if you're mad about what he's saying, but there's all these other things you could be mad about. And I'm like, that doesn't mean we can't be upset or disturbed about more than one thing at the same time. So it was a really lame flex, but I mean, hey, they got a lot of clicks, I guess. And I think Milo and Nick is taking advantage of Kanye as well. But hopefully, and the very first post that I posted on Facebook the other day regarding the situation is there anyone in his life that can just kind of sit him down and get him on a different path or talk to him and settle him down? And then I posted some things that he was saying, and a bit disappointed with reaction of some folks on the right pushing back so hard about it, but we'll get into all that today. Also, there was a story my sister sent me about this woman who worked for Queen Elizabeth for years. And she was at an event, and there was a black woman in like some African garb. And she asked, where was she from? And she wasn't apparently, immigrated from an African country. And she got her fired for racism. So, and is accusing this woman of being a racist, etc. And it's just a pretty wonky story. Like it, whether you think that people should ask questions like that, you might think is rude. That doesn't mean that you would fire someone who's been with the queen for such a long time and accuse her of being a racist. And so I want to talk about that. And also we got the Georgia election, and it's still, well, there's just a lot to talk about as far as the political landscape and stuff. So we'll get to all those things. First, I do want to address this Kanye stuff. But before I get to that, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content that I have on my website, different articles, different videos, different articles that we have regarding a lot of things going in the political landscape, cultural stuff. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. It costs to stream, costs to run my website, costs to do all those things. If you would like to help with that overhead, you're more than welcome to, and I appreciate that. Otherwise, I thank you guys for liking, for commenting, for subscribing. That is very much appreciated. Though I will say I'm not above blocking people. Definitely not above blocking people, which I did today to someone, but they were like lying about me in my comments, and not everyone is entitled to my platform. So just FYI, on Twitter, not Twitter, TikTok, I tell people that there's a quota that everybody has, and once you reach it, then then you're gone. So so when I was like, accuse me of something today, I'm like, where's your evidence? And they didn't have any, and then they accused me of deleting it, and I'm like, that's not true. And then they're like, stop gaslighting people. I'm like, are you kidding me? So they're gone. So just FYI, not above that, but Otherwise, if I trigger you so much, you're also free to go. Absolutely free to go. Also, we got some stuff on the website you guys can check out, like the Constitution's Glorious Liberty document. Sure, really like that one. The My Money, My Business. Of course, we got black tea mugs, etc. So let's just jump right into it. First, I want to say, um, Kanye West has been diagnosed as being bipolar, and I've there were some people in my comments who said that they personally dealt with that and managed it, and when they were like off their meds, they were saying bizarre, crazy things, and I said I'm aware of dealing with that condition, not myself personally, but um people, we'll just say people I know, and the paranoia and quickness to blame others, it was reminiscent. So I really do think there are people taking advantage of Kanye. We do know that um at the White House, you had uh Milo Yiannopoulos, who got in contact with Kanye through Alex Jones' producer, and then they tagged on together, and he got Nick Fuentes with him, and they went to the White House, and then they told NBC, had an interview saying that they did it to screw with Trump. They said they did it to screw with Trump because the news would get out, and then Trump would handle it poorly in their opinion. And they did confirm that Trump did not know who Nick Fuentes was prior to coming to the White House, but they did talk, etc. So the White House, they tried to, not the White House, but Mar-a-Lago, they tried to deny it a little bit, where they had dinner, where they talked or whatever, but apparently they did talk. But they did purposely intend to harm Trump. So the chaos that has ensued with like that dinner and what happened on Tim Pool, and then even last night, which Milo wasn't there last night, but Milo is a provocateur, and he thrives in chaos. It benefits him. Nick, he thrives in chaos. Kanye, he doesn't seem to mind chaos all that bit, but you can't say that it's not hurting him at this point, and he's not totally well. Like I said, does he have anyone that can just kind of be like, dude, we need to just sit down for a minute and just reassess some stuff? One thing about politics, I guess there's a question, is, does politics make you crazy, or sometimes does it attract and well people? I think it's a bit of both. But the thing about politics is that there's always someone else to blame, and at the same time they also like give you the power to believe that if you do this, then you are making such a change. Like, people are so into the climate change, etc. Even though if you went to like net zero emissions today, like it wouldn't stop the sea levels from rising and whatever. But people are so gung ho, like we have to save the planet. So it gives people this hero complex, even if they're just, I don't know, throwing away or recycling their water bottles. They feel like they're out there saving the world, or if they voted for a politician who passed a bill that's going to cause the US to pay more in carbon emissions while China keeps pumping filth into the atmosphere, they still feel like they've done a great deed, a great service to humanity or whatever. So it gives you this complex and sort of feeds into your ego, but at the same time, there's a lot of people to blame for your issues, for the different problems that you have. And it's very hard for a lot of people to navigate that. And so, like I said, does it attract some unwell people, or does it make some people unwell? I think it's a bit of both. But in Kanye's situation, he has a lot of people that he's blaming for different things. Even how he talks about religion on the broadcast, was just like, oh, we're the good ones, they're full of the devil, they're full of Satan, and blah blah blah. You know, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, take Satan out of the equation. They're still you. They're still you. I heard a great commentary with this some it's a YouTube channel where there's these pastors would get together and they'll just talk about the Bible. And one of them was asked by someone like, why does, God allow this, or the devil does this, the devil does this, and why he said someone asked like, why doesn't God just take a gun and shoot the devil in the face? And he's like, okay, let's say God created a cosmic gun or something, and he did that. And how would that change your life? How would that, like, because he was complaining about drug dealers. This was someone who did drugs, and was he's like, are there still going to be drug dealers? Are there still going to be people doing the drugs and all these other terrible things? If God just snapped his fingers and there was no more the devil, who was, Satan is the adversary. At the end of the day, there's still you. There is still you to contend with. So pointing out like you're in this cosmic battle of good and evil, and you just believe that you're on the side of good, which, if you're on the Lord's side, you are. But Christianity, so much of about it is bringing yourself under control, crushing your desires that are sinful. It's you bringing it's denying yourself. That's what Jesus said. You're going to follow after me, you have to deny yourself. And he talked about, Instagram, and he's like, these accounts, these social media stuff, that it's pornography, it's blah blah blah. And I'm like, there is dark stuff all over social media, but I'm like, my Instagram doesn't look like whatever his Instagram looked like. And he'll talk about how pornography, he messed up his family, but with this pornography addiction that he had. And then he goes on like about all this other stuff, and then he took the side of Balenciaga, by the way. And people have been talking about Balenciaga. If you don't know what that is, it's actually, I didn't know what Balenciaga was, so I'm not in the loop, I guess. Is a like a high fashion sort of brand, which he has stuff that he does with them. And actually, he was spotted wearing Balenciaga boots not too long ago. But they did an ad campaign that caused all this fury recently because it had children, and there was these teddy bears in like bondage is a BDSM gear. And so people were like, whoa, this is weird. This is gross. And so people continue to do deep dives, which I've started the dives, and they're deep and they are dark, but I haven't done a full video or anything on it. But in different shoots, they had references to artists that had weird pornography with kids, or tortured kids, or references to cannibalism. And there was one shoot where they had some tape that was supposed to say Balenciaga, but there was a typo, allegedly, and instead of Balenciaga, it said ball. And people are saying like Balenciaga, and if you add an A, then it's ball is king. So there's some really dark stuff going on. And so he had referenced it a couple times in the InfoWars interview, but afterwards, and I posted this on my Facebook tweet, which is now gone because his Twitter account was nuked by Elon Musk. He got suspended. And he said he's, uncanceling cancel culture, and he's standing with them. And so people were upset because he said, he's waging against all these other people who's coming against kids, but this is a weird company that apparently is into some weird stuff regarding children. And he still wanted to stand by. I am very curious. I guess Candace Owen, she has her show on Friday, and I haven't watched it. I don't know what time it comes on, but I'm very curious what she might say, because she called out Kim Kardashian, who works with the brand, and wanted her to address them or address the controversy. And Kim Kardashian did. And Kim Kardashian said that um, it's still up in the air whether she's going to continue working with them, but she's not dropping them as of now. And she has been personally disturbed by what was going on as a mother, but she is glad that they're taking accountability. And they have been pointing fingers, or like, oh no, it was the photographer, or it was the company, and so they're suing and other stuff. But that sort of stuff still has to get approved, and it's a long-term thing that's been happening with this company. So I don't think just pointing the finger is going to help. But people were coming at Kim Kardashian for not just announcing it, because she has a lot of money. She doesn't need the money to be associated with this brand. But now Kanye said that he was standing up for them. So and he also made the point, like, you're going to be mad at them with like, I guess it's like small meat and potatoes compared to like other stuff. And I'm like, you're allowed to be upset at more than one thing at a time, you know? And people do talk about things as they're topical, and hopefully people open their eyes to one thing and they continue on a trail. So I don't think we should just be like, no, let them, give them a pass, because Instagram has apparently pictures that Kanye looked at and got him in trouble with his family or something. That's not how it goes. That's not how it goes at all. So when Kanye started going on his journey of, doing his album, of the Christian album, Jesus is King, etc., you know, I kept saying, like, I hope he has some people who are going to disciple him well. And then all of a sudden he was like hosting his own, you know, church services and other stuff like that. I'm like, he barely knows the Bible, you know? He just needs some time, and not all these spotlights of fame, while he's trying to kind of work a lot of stuff out. And like I just said before, it just really kind of still seems like it's like a bigger us versus them battle of good versus evil, rather than looking within to take accountability for yourself and your life. One of the reasons why I was really upset, was this last year or was it earlier this year? Anyway, Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson, was mocked by Marvel Comics, uh, particularly Ta-Nehisi Coates, who wrote this Captain America story, and the Red Skull, who is like a super Nazi, with, leader of Hydra and stuff. So he had like a 8 rules for chaos or 10 rules for chaos or something, and it was in reference to Jordan Peterson's rules for life. So and they had other comments in there, and Captain America was talking to a police officer about the sort of men that follow the Red Skull. And the Jordan Peterson was a good sport about it. He laughed about it. I think his daughter was more offended for him, and she's his daughter. That's how, family is. They made some, like, someone made some he's always talking about lobsters, so they made some lobster Hydra-ish gear and was just selling the, may have the proceeds go to charity, and just made a big joke out of it. But I was offended on his behalf, because I'm like, he's not just like a pop personality spewing stuff online. He's someone who actually sits down with people and has helped a lot of people. And there have been a lot of men who've written to Jordan Peterson about how he profoundly changed their lives. And he said there's a lot of people who started going down a path of very, very, very far right kind of stuff. And because he talks about clean your room, those little simple lessons, like get your life in order. You have that power to do that, instead of focusing on all of these outside forces. Not that things aren't there, but think about what you can control in your space, and you begin to realize that things aren't so chaotic or outside of your control if you can at least start to take accountability for what's in front of you. So I didn't like how they came for him, and not just him, but the people who he helps. And so I think Kanye needs that kind of help where he's looking more about the things that he's done. And I'm not saying he hasn't taken steps, but there's a lot of looking toward everyone else. And so he said some very inflammatory things throughout the nearly 3 hours. And there's some people who go like nuclear on themselves, and this was like he was well aware that the things that he was saying was controversial, and at the end it was kind of more, you got the sense that it was more exaggerated, and he was saying things to prove a point, because he believes if you do cancel him for his words, then you're proving his point that these people are in control. But there's a lot of people that would take offense to the kind of things that he was saying. So I just wish that folks weren't taking such huge advantage of him. Again, he's a grown man, he's accountable for things that he says. But Milo, Nick, totally taking advantage of him. And I was also sickened by some of the InfoWars people at the end, how they were just didn't have a negative thing to say. Like Alex Jones is actually the moderate. And he was like, nah, I don't, like, he kept trying to like clarify Kanye's position. He's like, well, you don't actually mean that you like Hitler, right? And he's like, nah, I do. It's like he was trying. He was really trying. And he kept going back and talking about experiences with his grandfather and how bad the Nazis were and others. Like Alex Jones was trying. Like he was the most sane person on there. But he had some other folks at the end that were just like that. I don't know. It was almost like a, how dare you be upset about what Kanye said when there's all these other things in the world that you can be upset about. And again, we're allowed to have more than one thought. So we're allowed to be concerned about more than one thing, offended with more than one thing. I'm not angry so much at anything that he said. It's really more sad to me watching this all go down. I saw people saying stuff like they couldn't even watch the entire thing. It was too sad to watch someone just implode their life like that. And people, and I haven't advocated for him to be deplatformed or debanked or anything like that, but people are going to talk about the things that he said, and people are going to not want to associate or even not do business with people who say stuff like that. It's just the truth. And you can be offended all you want, but Anthony Scalia, he said, and I tried to find this video. I watched a snippet of this last night, but he was talking about, free speech. And of course, free speech is a good thing, but there's some people who think like rights are like muscles, and the more you use them, they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like, no, if you you have the freedom to say stupid things, but you're still saying stupid things. And it doesn't make it good just because you're saying them. Just because you're talking, it's good that you're able to. That doesn't mean that it's a good thing that you are. And I'm grateful for our rights. But there's still a matter of not just what you can do, but what you ought to do. So people who seem to be criticizing or pushing back against people who have criticism of Kanye and the sort of things he was saying, we're all using our free speech like he used his free speech. But he's not entitled to go on everyone else's platforms and speak on different stuff. And honest to God, it would be better for him if he didn't. It would be better if he just chilled and if people just was like, Kanye, you need to take a beat, sir. You need to just calm down for a moment. But let let's watch a little bit of it. I'm not gonna talk about this all day. I've been talking for a while. I'm not gonna talk about this the whole entire hour. But at least I'm not gonna try to. I'm not going to try to, but at one point in time, not at one point in time, he was talking about the PM of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and he had a net and a gosh, what's a real life soda called? Hey Arnold, it's called Yahoo, but it's not a Yahoo. It's something else in real life, right? But and he had them both, and you'll see a little snippet of the act.
I was tired of picking up the Yahoo and the netting, so for now he's just netting. I know some people call him BB. No, some people call him Yahoo, but we're gonna call him netting. What you want, netting? Hey, yay, right after this, I'm gonna say you're crazy. I'm gonna take your family away from you. We're not done with you yet. You cannot cause free thought. We have to control the history books. We have to control the banks, and we have to go and kill people. Also, we're in the pedophilia.
So, and in a little while, hopefully you're going to take the mask off, because is this actually yay here?
Yeah, he was just joking at that point. He knew it was yay, but that was the first time he did the net thing. That was, I don't know, maybe like the third time he did something related to that. Which, by the way, he talked quite a bit, or had this thing about BB, which is his nickname and stuff. But he also mentioned that he didn't know who he was until like a week ago. So and Kanye, he did say that he loves everyone. He did say, like, to cover his bases, and people do say that, like, in a Christian, like, well, I love everyone sort of way, but he still said that he likes Hitler. And so you can love everyone with the love of Christ, but still not find certain people favorable. So, and you can say, well, he just said be controversial. He said what he said. He said what he said. And he kept saying that he loves everyone. But every time Hitler or Nazis or something was mentioned, which he kept bringing it up, he found ways to speak on them positively, yet he trashed or was mocking BB, even though he only knew who he was for like the span of a week. And he took the time to go after Ben Shapiro and pulled out like tweets from Owen Benjamin that were racist. Digs at Ben. So it's just really not good, guys. Let's play a little bit more of the clips.
I don't think Hitler was a good guy. I get the Hugo Boss uniforms, amazing. But I mean, just because you're in love with the design, you're a designer. Can we just kind of say, like, you like the uniforms, but that's about it?
No, there's a lot of things that I love about Hitler. A lot of things.
Yeah. Here's another
Schwarzenegger said he loved Hitler. They gave him an award. I'm just saying, I don't like Nazis, and I don't like what some of the mafias are doing either.
I like Hitler.
He said that more than once, but yeah, he said he liked him at the end.
I want to say with Ben Shapiro, he was so.
This is the thing about that he said about Candace Owens, and which I thought I didn't see this really trending or people really talking about it. I saw one person post a clip, but this is like toward the end, like the final hour of the broadcast. And I was like, oh, this is spicy. This is quite spicy. Because he talks about Ben. Now he's talking about Ben Shapiro as another example of the Jews having power over people. That's why he's bringing him up. And he's going to talk about how Candace Owens is controlled or is on a leash is how Alex Jones asked and Kanye confirmed. So We'll watch that and then have
I
commentary.
want to say with Ben Shapiro, he was so disrespectful to his employee Candace Owens for speaking out against me, and that just showed you another level of this kind of control that's out there.
No, I agree. I like Candace. She has a lot of courage. She's a really smart, beautiful lady. She's really defended you. But I mean, are you saying Ben Shapiro's got her on a leash?
I think it's pretty obvious.
You know, as our Paul Watson, we didn't launch her. She deserved it. But InfoWars launched Candace Owens.
Yeah, so he's just trying to kind of go. Alex kept trying to go in different directions the whole entire time. He was really trying to save that interview. Yeah, so I thought that this was a really rude thing of Kanye to do, because some people are like, well, Candace, she's not as edgy as she used to be. Well, she, first of all, Ben is her boss. When you are hired under someone, you do have to I don't meet whatever requirements or standards or whatever agreement, but it seems like she still does a lot of what she wants to do. And he I don't know what all kind of agreements the people of the Daily Wire have, but they all do have different disagreements about different things. Like, they all had such different opinions, like during COVID. I was so annoyed with Ben Shapiro's commentary about COVID with some of his stuff, especially like at the beginning of the pandemic. And I've talked many times about some of his tweets that he had. I have an article on my website talking about, because Ben Shapiro has an article about the dumb things that he's done. And he's like, you can have submissions. I wrote an article saying, this is my submission, Ben. So, and maybe I should revisit that and repost it and add it a couple times, because he did come out and say that, you know, they had lied about the vaccine, and that he doesn't even know if he would have got it at the time if he had known the truth. But this was like before I think the vaccines were really out, and he was just talking about the lockdowns and other stuff like that. So um he had such different opinions than, let's say, Michael Knowles. And I really wanted to see them fight in public about it. And from what I saw, they never fought in public about it. Like, I'm watching their feeds, I'm like, they gotta argue about this. I know they do, but I don't know. Maybe they just kept those arguments internal. Because Ben said that he tried to convince like a ton of people to, I don't know, get vaccinated or whatever. But I I still wish I could have saw that fight. But as far as Ben and he made some comments too, like over social media, that given some of the commentary going on, I didn't think it was as dramatic as what, you know, saying, oh, we're so rude that Ben talked to his employee that way. It wasn't really very extraordinary, you know. And Candace Owens has really gone out of her way not to thrash Kanye with his comments. She's really gone out of her way to not throw him under the bus. I don't know how long it's going to last. But even like with the controversy with the Trump and and Kanye and the dinner, she even had one tweet. She's like, "Well, let Trump be Trump, let Ye be Ye." She keeps telling people like, you know, I don't make me feel like obligated, like I have to denounce my friends, etc. And she doesn't want to play that game. And Kanye is a friend. Kanye is a friend. She said that several times. I don't know. She still feels that way. You know, I'm sure she'll probably address it. But for him to say that she's on a leash, like as some kind of example of Jewish control, she's if you feel like she doesn't have as much edge as she used to because she's under the Daily Wire umbrella, she's under a company, period. That has nothing to do with Ben Shapiro being a Jewish person. Like, that's how it is when you work under company. There were so many things, like when I worked at the Michigan Republican Party, that I could not tweet. You know, one day I posted something. I can't remember if it was a tweet or if it was something on Facebook. And it was something like that, totally in line with Republican values or whatever. It wasn't super edgy, but someone else had posted something, and so people were watching the social media. So it was the weekend, and I got a call from my boss because I was in the comms, and they're like, you need to take this down. And I was so angry. I was so angry. And I wanted to say, like, you need to explain to me what's wrong with my post before I take it down. But I just took it. I was like, okay. But I was stewing. I was mad. I was mad. And there's no way I could do black tea if I was still working there under there. No way. No way could I do that. So when you're working under the umbrella of some kind of company, I was a little surprised that they did, bring Candace on, just because she is a lot more spicier than I think Ben and other folks. But um they've been together for a while now, doing her thing, producing her documentary and other stuff. So I really thought Kanye's comment was spicy, and regarding Candace and Ben, and really ungrateful, because she could have really thrown him under the bus. And I don't know how long that's going to last, especially as he keeps pushing the boundaries of these conversations. And you could say, well, he's just trying to prove a point. Prove a point that what? That people don't want to tolerate really egregious things. Like, you don't need to upload yourself on Infowars to make that point. We know that. We know that. Um, there are some people who are doing like whataboutisms, and mentioning like, hey, you got Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and saying stuff, and yeah, they say terrible stuff. I don't like them, and I don't like the stuff that they say. Al Sharpton, you know, you got people who would associate with Farrakhan and all that other stuff. So yeah, folks on the left have some folks that they deal with that say anti-Semitic things, and that's not a good thing. But and we could point out the hypocrisy, but that doesn't explain still why people still they feel like they need to go to bat for Kanye. That doesn't explain it. You can't just say that both are bad. You can say both are bad, and yes, the left has a double standard. That doesn't explain why there's some people who want to die on that hill with Kanye. That doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense. And I do also have to say that I feel like with some people, now I've seen some people that were like, oh, some stuff gets taken out of context and they look more intent. They're like, oh no, oh gosh, you're right, that he's going too far. And and there's other people who are, I don't know, sticking with it. And I think that, well, I have to ask the question, if Rashida Tlaib said these comments on MSNBC and took more time to bash Ben Shapiro and Bibi than Hitler, like, would people still be saying they're free speech, or would we be like, those people are terrible? And would there be mailers, or not mailers, but emails with fundraising appeals, like, stop Rashida Tlaib now? Pretty sure that's what would happen. So if Kanye didn't say some things that you like, and put on the red MAGA hat at one point in time, and talked about like the evils of Planned Parenthood, like, would people still be like, leave Kanye alone? Or I don't think so. So I think there's a lot of people who need to do some self-examination. I can agree with you when you're right on something. I can disagree with you on when you're wrong with something. And I feel bad for people who've bought his albums, who have his stuff, who are ride and die fans, and may have heard that stuff and been like, I can't ride with him no more. I've never been a fan of Kanye myself. If you held a gun to my head, I don't know if I can name 10 songs. Maybe I could. I'm not sure. Definitely don't have any Yeezys or anything like that. I thought his clothes looked kind of dumb. I still remember Kanye back when he said like Bush doesn't care about black people, and thinking that was so awful. And even as he continued when he started to go to the White House and hang out with Trump, and people are like, oh, he's crazy. My thing was, Kanye's been saying and doing stuff that was weird and out the box forever. but now it's a problem because he's got a MAGA hat on. Like, that's the line too far for you people. Um, so that was my thing, and so I could still bring up like, hey, he's saying the stuff about Margaret Sanger. It happens to be correct. And Nick Cannon said the stuff about Margaret Sanger. It happens to be correct. And Nick Cannon still also said some racist stuff about white people. And truth is the truth. The truth is the truth. And we shouldn't be afraid to point that out, and people shouldn't be so offended because other people do. So what I would like for Kanye is for Kanye to just get some help. Again, I'm really sickened by Milo and Nick's plot, which it was a plot to make Trump look bad with the Mar-a-Lago dinner and stuff, and it did. And this hasn't been a story that was just a blip thing that faded away. It's been more than a week long, and Kanye's just making it worse. And I can't fathom them letting Nick and Milo in Mar-a-Lago, but he shouldn't have even entertained Kanye. But Trump, you say Trump's thing has been like, you say good things about Trump, Trump's cool with you. Like, what's the name of that reporter he just led around the White House recording stuff, and he wrote that terrible book about him. Like, why would you do that? But people cozy up to Trump, and he lets them in a little too much. Like, I know they probably had the dinner arranged and stuff before, and he said he was trying to help out a friend, but his people should have been like, "This now's not a good time, sir. Now is not a good time." So that was a failure on the staff. But it is what it is. It is what it is. If these people really cared about Kanye, they would not keep having him on. I thought like the Tim Pool thing, he was only on there for 20 minutes. Some people said Tim Pool dodged a bullet. I thought that was enough to sort of expose where his mind was on these issues. The going on InfoWars and acting a fool was a big crash and burn. But I really want him to take some time with his family, with some, I don't know what sort of faith leaders that he has in his life. But again, so much of the gospel is about self-improvement and denying yourself and your bad impulses. You could, like I said, the scenario when the man asked the minister, like, what would happen if God just shot the devil in the face, or why doesn't he just do that? And it's like, well, if he did, are we still going to have evil in the world? Are you still going to choose to do evil? Is the devil doesn't make you get up and do bad things. Like, he's the adversary. Maybe he, there's a whole in the Garden of Eden. They also broke down this commentary really well. The snake, the serpent who deceived Eve, they got her to believe a couple of different lies that got her to the point where she did decide to betray God, but those decisions are still her own that caused the fall, and she did them with Adam, and it caused the fall. So humans have to make better choices for themselves, and I really hope that the people around Kanye can help him get to the point where he will do that for himself, because the blaming other people, the paranoia, and politics is hard because there are different conspiracies around for sure. Just in general, that people who are unwell can attach themselves to, but a lot of his problems are his own making, and he's digging the grave. He's just digging it deeper and deeper and deeper, thinking that he's going to prove himself correct the more they cancel him. But that doesn't prove that the cabal is so deep with the Jews. It just means people in general don't want to be associated with that sort of toxic activity. And on top of all the Hitler stuff, he went ahead and he's standing with Balenciaga. Standing with Balenciaga. So it's really too bad. Okay, next thing I want to talk about, my sister sent me this story. And Nigel Farage is going to talk about this in this broadcast, but it's amazing how these activists will set folks up or just blow up any sort of racial thing for attention. Because I don't know what this lady was thinking.
Obviously, one thing, you won't hear that on any other news channel in this country tonight. Lady Susan Hussey was a lady-in-waiting to our late Queen and reportedly one of her best friends. She'd given 6 decades of service to this country. At an event last night, a cocktail party event last night at Buckingham Palace, there was a woman in full African dress. Lady Hussey, perhaps not unsurprisingly, asked her where she came from. She got a series of non-replies and pursued the conversation. In the end, it turns out that Ngozi Fulani, who is a British citizen, although of African heritage and still displaying African culture.
So, that's what she was wearing. Nobody else is wearing stuff like that. That's what she wore. And now, granted, you can wear, I guess, what you want at events. Do you really think it's unreasonable that an 80-something-year-old woman asked this woman here, where is she from, thinking that maybe she was from somewhere else? Now there are people who wear African garb who are, you know, not fresh off the boat, I guess you could say. Just like the style, just want to connect with that heritage. Or my sister has a dress that she went to Kenya and the people made her dress, and she really likes it. She wears it from, not often, but it's cool. So whether it was a misunderstanding or not, I'm just saying it doesn't seem like something that is totally something you can blame her for. And they're really blowing it out of proportion. But that's the outfit. I just wanted to pause and look at it for a moment, and we can keep going.
It turns out she said she felt she'd been denied her nationality in what was seen to be an outright racist assault. A couple of points to make about that, because I thought immediately something doesn't feel right here. So who is Ngozi Fulani? Well, I'll tell you, she helps run a charity. The charity is called Sister Space. Let me read you their mission statement. Our charity supports black women domestic violence survivors. So if you're white, don't apply. Black women domestic violence. And she says, I admire Meghan for speaking out. According to clear definition, it seems Meghan is a survivor of domestic violence from her in-laws. This was in 2021. And I could go on. She said, I'm glad the hypocrite Piers has left ITV. Well, I'm not Piers' greatest fan, but I did think, actually, on Meghan Markle, he was almost certainly right. She then goes on to say about the Jubilee, Harry and Meghan won't be allowed on the balcony. It is an exclusively white balcony. The only black people are banned. This is racism. Add to that her organisation has been funded by Black Lives Matter. And I'm not questioning the stated aim of Black Lives Matter, of equality from all. I'm questioning an organisation that has proved to be deeply corrupt, that wants to effectively close down funding for our police forces and bring down the entirety of the Western world. And you know what's worst of all? There's a full transcript of that conversation with Lady Hussey. She clearly had a tape recorder on her as well. And my view is, rather than an 83-year-old woman being thrown to the wolves for doing nothing more than trying to make small talk, polite conversation at a cocktail party, my view is that Fulani planned this right from the very start. She's an anti-royal, anti-British Marxist, and it's quite wrong what has happened in the last 24 hours.
So they fired this 83-year-old woman for asking where this woman was from. Again, she's wearing that. Let me go back to that garb at the event, and it's just one of those things that you really shouldn't have made a big deal, but just was determined, I guess, to be the victim here, and just already has implicit bias with her worldview that it would make sense that I guess it was racism, and caused a big deal and got this 83-year-old woman fired. And it's just remarkable. It's just remarkable. Again, my sister sent me this story. She just saying, like, if you some things, I went to a, and some people even get offended if you use this term, a white school. It was mostly, so half my school career was like was in like an urban environment, and then where there's like a handful of, like, maybe not a handful, but I was going to say white kids, but it was very diverse. It was very diverse. And about in the middle of 7th grade, I moved into like a rural area, and then there was like maybe like, I don't know if there was even 10 Black kids in my graduating class. So sometimes kids would say things that were like, but like, do you that's a, I guess we'll say racially insensitive. But I would just kindly explain, kindly correct, and not have it be something that, I don't know, I felt like I had to run around or plot to ruin someone's career, whether, school career or career with the palace. that wasn't like my intention. I just definitely didn't want them to run into a situation with someone who wouldn't handle it as gracefully as I would. And then I also understood that a lot of people are isolated, and maybe there's a lot of stuff that they think they know that's from TV, that I can maybe just correct the record, from give some real life perspective. And it wasn't coming from a place of maliciousness, but maybe just a place of ignorance. And it's not the end of the world if you need to correct someone, even if they do say something, and I'll put it again, racially insensitive. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person at heart. It just means that they're a bit ignorant. And so you just correct it and move on. So if this was one of those incidents where it's like, well, you shouldn't assume that, you just, say where you're actually from, and maybe that wouldn't have embarrassed her for like 2.5 seconds, and the polite conversation could have just continued on. Maybe she would apologize and be like, oh, I'm sorry, or whatever, or just maybe just internal dread, or maybe nothing. Maybe she would have been like, oh, and it would have been over. It wasn't worth firing this old lady. It just wasn't worth, in my opinion. And you guys can have a different opinion. You're free to have yours. But the drama, too many people really like it, I guess. Too many people really, really, really like it. Like the drama. But that poor lady. That poor lady. So I do want to say something about the Georgia runoff, which is going to be on Tuesday, the 6th. And some people really, really feel people got mad the other day because I said I wasn't very optimistic about it. And the reason why I wrote the post is because I was hoping, because there's people from Georgia who follow me, and I was hoping that some people would say something to make me change my mind. And be like, oh no, the energy on the ground is great. But after posting that, I did look up some more polling, and it seemed like it's not like Warnock is running away with it. I did see some early voting numbers that were concerning. That were concerning in my opinion. And I did see an ad from a poll that was done from AARP, and they were talking about like younger voters, Warnock basically has, and older voters, Herschel has more of a majority. But as far as like the black vote, like Warnock has that on lock. And the early voting that I saw like had like a bigger proportion of black people voting than white people. Now, that was um maybe it was early last weekend, maybe. So or perhaps it's evened out more, and we know that Republicans will go out a lot on the actual day, which I don't know. You don't want another incident like Maricopa County, so just you should probably go ahead and take care of that as quick as you can, and try not to what happened in Arizona was just so bizarre, so crazy, and immoral. Just the incompetence, the whether it was incompetence or maliciousness or whatever. Um, the AG race was like 501 votes, something really really crazy close, and that's pretty close for a statewide race. I mean, I was in a local race, and I lost a primary by like 6 votes, so that was really sucked because I definitely knew 6 people didn't vote, but um 500 votes like in a big election like that's not that crazy, but of a difference. I i don't know if that's enough, that with a recount that you'll find enough to change the results of the election. But with all that happened as far as people not being able to vote or having issues with the machine, you could think that something like that could make a difference, at least in that AG race. So having all those issues that they had in Maricopa County, it just disenfranchises so many different people. I started saying, like, I don't know if Carrie Lake was going to win, but Arizona definitely deserves Carrie Lake. And what I meant by that was, you have all these issues, and you have someone who's talking about all these different issues that they're having. And if she's going to keep, focusing on that, and they don't want to, and they just want to pin her down as some election denier at the, prior to her, not winning. And they'd ask her about, 2020 and election denial. And she's like, they had issues in their darn primary. And she's like, we need to make sure that the people can trust in the process of the elections. And what happened? They totally screwed the pooch. They totally screwed the pooch. And the person she ran against is a Secretary of State. So I don't know how you do something so poorly and do something so wrong. But anyway, I'd probably go take care of that as quick as you can if you're in Georgia. So one thing to remember, because this isn't going to make the difference as Republicans taking control of the Senate, but it will act as a good buffer, because with the landscape that we have right now with the 50-50, is that it puts a lot of pressure on people like Joe Manchin, who are moderates or whatever, into not voting along with the rest of the Democrats, because he has a lot of power as someone who's like on the fence, like, I can't vote for something too extreme or whatever because my people will get with me. But if they have the cover of this extra vote, then there's not as much pressure on Manchin, so he can go along with them more, or it will matter less that with his position in him in cinema, etc. Now there have been instances where it hasn't mattered and they have eventually caved, but there have been instances where things got held off at least for a little while, or some of the most terrible things. And like the big Build Back Better did fail at first, and then they eventually revamped it. Apparently, when he got a call from like a Bill Gates convinced him to do it or something. I'm sure Bill Gates wasn't the only one, but I'm like, well, that's concerning. So if you're in Georgia, you should vote. Bring out other people to vote. I do think it is so fascinating, and I'll have to write an article about this. But I've seen there's this one account on Twitter called Woke Clips, woke Preacher Clips, and there was a pastor who was complaining about Herschel Walker and acting like he was so arrogant, blah blah blah, just finding all kind of ways to reach and really criticize him. And then he started talking about these politicians who want Christians to just butt out of like gay marriage and abortion. Is like, you're directly promoting things that we're against and we're just supposed to be silent. And I'm like, and it was like in mid sentence of him criticizing Herschel Walker and then criticizing these people who he is apparently against as far as their ideology. But I'm like, but you're still going to go vote for them? I'm like, there's such a huge disconnect there with the black church, where they're just so uniformly vote one way that it's bizarre. They now there's some churches that are just like progressive or woke, and they're continuously getting worse. I heard it's a problem down in the South is there's a lot of these big churches that are having older bishops or whatever that are retiring, and they bring in like these younger people who are woke, I guess, and are starting to push the church in like a different direction. So that's a problem that I'm hearing going on in some of these like Baptist churches and etc. But beyond that, you have pastors who are like Warnock, who are woke Marxist type of folks. And there's always been people in the church who itching ears is I guess the verse you can refer to, people who want to hear certain things, and false teachers who will appease those worst instincts. And so there's a lot of woke people who believe that progressive stuff and push that progressive stuff, and it seems like there's such a plethora of it nowadays. But there are people who have more conservative type values, who are in these black churches, who don't like this different stuff that the Democrats are doing, but are still going to pull the lever for them. And it is so bizarre. It is so bizarre. And my church is well, at least as far back as I can remember, has never been that way. My dad became a Republican like in the 2000s, early 2000s. But as far back as I can kind of remember him talking about politics or being involved in politics or caring about politics, I like remember him listening to Rush and all kinds of different stuff. So I have a more conservative, my church is conservative, not more conservative. We are a conservative church. And I know other black churches that are conservative or conservative minded and will vote that particular way. But we're a minority. And it's really so bizarre. There was even one clip of a pastor. Maybe I'll have to show you guys that. I guess maybe not tomorrow, maybe Monday, or maybe I'll post it. Of a preacher spreading a conspiracy theory that Herschel Walker on the debate stage had some kind of earpiece. Now, you think he did so good that he had an earpiece in? Now he did, surprisingly, in my opinion, beat Warnock in the debate, which people didn't expect him to do. I certainly didn't expect him to do. But you're just throwing around a conspiracy theory and an earpiece during the debate. So, and I'm sure there's more woke clips I could pull together to talk about that race, but it's amazing how many people are going to go out there and vote against their values. And I don't like when people say you're voting against your own interest or whatever, but in the case of that video that I'm referencing with that pastor, he is going to go vote for someone who is against his values. Again, and it's just crazy. So if you're out there and you have these conversations, and don't tell people that they're voting against their values, Like, ask what they are and then break it down point by point by point, and ask them why. Well, why are you voting for this person if you're blah 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 blah, and see where the conversation goes. Like, if you can question them on a deeper, specific level, maybe you can change minds like that. But if you're just gonna be like, you're just voting against your own interest, blah blah, just very broadly, a lot of people will probably take offense to that. Um, because I genuinely do. So be more specific. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Um, it's been a crazy news cycle, especially with this Kanye stuff, Balenciaga. Oh my gosh, I didn't even get to like Scott Wiener. You know, Scott. We've talked about Scott Wiener a couple times. Scott Wiener is this creepy legislator out in California, and Charlie Kirk mentioned him for some reason, and then he tweeted out like not even 24 hours, and I got this hate message, just threat. And so people are like, dude, we can see the cursor in the message. Like, you wrote this yourself. And then he was like, this was from a voicemail, but you guys have fun with your conspiracies. And they're like, why don't you just post the voicemail? 'Cause that's what I would have just did from jump. I wouldn't have transcribed my voicemail message unless I was like writing an article about it. But I still would have the evidence. So to my knowledge, I don't believe he's posted that evidence, though he could always just fake it at this point. But maybe he's gonna ignore it and just hope the story dies down. But yeah, it just totally kind of seems like another hate hoax situation. But it's pretty hysterical. Now there could always be a voicemail. It still doesn't make sense that he didn't provide it. And at this point, if he does, I don't know, unless we can analyze where it came from. I don't know how many people would believe him at this point, because it's been a minute. It's been a while that he hasn't posted it. So that's a pretty funny story. There's so much news, but the Kanye thing. I watched all like near 3 hours of it, so I was going to talk about it. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to understand the context and everything. Some people are like, you're taking them out of context. I watched the whole thing. And part of me is like, I can't believe I'm watching this whole thing. But I did. Anyway, God bless you guys. Please check out different stuff on the website, different merch that we got, like the Rowan Casey Aborted Life Wins stuff. We got the You Are Not That Special. We got the XX Club lifetime membership, and XX Woman. Different stuff you guys can find at the website. God bless you guys, and I'll see you on Monday.